Hey guys, so welcome back to another Sunday School video. We're going to continue in our study of James. But first, I just want to comment. So I watched through the videos, not watched through them all, but I just kind of look back at the front image of all of them, and I realized that since I started this, my hair just keeps getting longer and longer. So now it's it's getting pretty long here, and I try to tuck it, but it's getting long, and they won't let me cut it. But anyway, so we're going to continue in our study of James, and we're going to be finishing up chapter 3 today. So if you guys have a Bible in front of you, you want to open to it, go ahead and do that. It'll be verses 13 through 18, so it'll finish up that chapter. And this one, it's talking about two different kinds of wisdom: the wisdom of the world and the wisdom of God. And just to give us a little bit of a teaser here, so I came up with a couple of some of our culture's wise sayings, right? Okay, so we've got YOLO, right? I'm sure you guys are familiar with YOLO. You only live once. What I find interesting about this this wise saying is it's usually justified, or it's usually used to justify some kind of dumb or irresponsible thing that you want to do. I want to stay up all night. YOLO. You only live once, so might as well enjoy it, right? That's kind of the way that it's taken. But a lot of times, I hear people use that to justify, and I think to myself, shouldn't it be used the other way? You only live once, so don't do something that's going to cut it short, like jumping off of a bridge, or all those other things that some people they use it to justify this stupid thing that they're doing. Personally, I just think it should be flipped the other way. Instead of being used to justify stupid things, it should be used to stop you from doing stupid things. And I think that would be wiser. Then you also have something like the phrase, you do you. Just that's what you want to do, so you do you, I'll do me, all that kind of stuff. There's the idea of do what makes you happy. So if it's going to be something that brings you joy, then go ahead and you do that. I hate doing that. I don't like it, but you go ahead and you do what makes you happy. A friend of mine likes to use the phrase "que sera, sera," which I think translated it means basically what will be. And that just has the idea of whatever happens in the future, it's gonna happen no matter what, and I can't do anything about it. I can't control it, so I'm just not gonna worry about it. And sometimes that may seem like it's a wise thing to do, because it can stop us from overthinking the future and becoming over impacted by anxiety and all those kinds of things. But then at the same time, it kind of doesn't accept the fact that we have responsibility for our actions, and what we do does impact the future. So the decisions that I make now, today, are going to affect the things that happen tomorrow. So it's not completely out of my hands. If I don't record this video, there is no Sunday school video. Yeah. So I don't think that one's really the wisest way to live your life by that. And then there's also carpe diem, seize the day. And that also kind of has that idea of don't worry about the future, just take today as it is, enjoy today, and take tomorrow when it comes, and that kind of a thing. And so both of those have that idea of seizing now and not worrying about what's going to come, and kind of not really accepting that you have any control over what's going to come, and all that kind of stuff. But those are some of the popular phrases that people today use in our culture. And then there was one I came across. I was looking this up online, and I just thought it was interesting, so I was going to share it with you. And it says, "I'd rather regret things I've done than regret the things I haven't done." So I'd rather regret things that I have done than regret the things that I haven't done. And so at face value, that also seems pretty wise. I'd rather do something and then maybe regret it later than be stopped by fear and not do something and then regret that later. But the thing that caught me from this was just in either case, you still have regret. And I feel like that's not the way that we want to be living our lives, where we're just expecting to regret things. I feel like you still end up with regret. So that maybe that's also not a good, wise thing to go with. But anyway, so let's jump into this chapter and see what James has to say about these two different wisdoms that we can have. So starting in verse 13, he says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show it by his good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But If you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, of the devil. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. So James has taken these two different kinds of wisdom and he's comparing them back and forth. And the first kind is the earthly kind, and really it's just focused on the self. You know, you've got bitter envy and selfish ambition. Bitter envy is just wanting something that you don't have. So that guy has something, I want it for me. So it has like this focus on the self and wanting for myself what somebody else has. And to be bitter about it just means that you've wanted it for a long time and you don't have it and you're really upset about that. So it's just kind of like a dark place to be. But it's focused on the self. And then selfish ambition is also, wanting something for yourself and being willing basically to do anything to get it, even if it hurts other people. So again, it's focused on the self. So what James is getting at here is that the wisdom of the world is all focused on you. It's focused on you, what you want, what you think you need, what you desire, and doing what you need to do to get it. That is the wisdom of the world. And really, I think if we look back at some of the wise sayings that we get in our culture today, we see that. YOLO, you only live once. So, live to the max. Carpe diem, seize the day. For who? For you. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. So don't worry about the future, but just do what you want to do today. Do what makes you happy. You do you. There's this heavy emphasis on you, on the self. And then he contrasts it with the wisdom from heaven, the wisdom of God. And he says things like, the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, and then it is peace-loving and considerate and all these things. So the wisdom of God, rather than focusing on the self, is focused on others and our relationship to them. So when he talks about peace-loving, by yourself, like we talk about, having a sense of peace, but really peace is when we have like a calmness or an understanding in a relationship with another person. So peace is found when people aren't fighting against each other, when people aren't only looking out for themselves, but they're looking out for each other. You think about the difference between peace and war. War is when people are fighting, peace is when they're not, And so there's this idea of, looking out for the interests of others. We see that in Philippians chapter 2. He also talks about selfish ambition there, so you might want to look into that one. But basically, the wisdom of God, it seeks peace. It considers the thoughts and the needs of others. It submits to the will of other people. So it's not always just what I want, do what I want, to do what I say. The wisdom of God forgives, and it offers abundant mercy. Not a limited amount, but just abundance. And it just keeps giving out mercy to people. It works hard to do good for other people. It doesn't favor one person over another. Like, I like that guy, so I'm going to be nice to him, but I don't like that guy, so I'm not going to be nice to him. That's not the wisdom of God. That's the wisdom of the world, saying that, only help people that you like. So it doesn't favor one person over another. It's impartial. And then, of course, he uses the word sincere. It's honest. It's all about honesty, not lying, because... Guys, think about it. Why do we most often lie? To help ourselves. Either to get ourselves out of trouble or to get something for ourselves. And so the wisdom of God says, stop focusing on yourself, start focusing on other people and be honest with them. And so living in this way, according to God's wisdom, following the wisdom of God, that's going to reward you with, he says, a harvest of righteousness. And that's really just of knowing that your life and your deeds are in right standing with God and what God says is right. So living according to the wisdom of God puts you in right standing with God. And as the supreme being, he's the one person that we want to be in right standing with. But living according to the world's wisdom, where it's all focused on the self and getting what we want and what we desire right now, that's ultimately going to result in chaos. He uses the word disorder and every evil practice. So it's going to end up in just really negative, really bad stuff. It doesn't lead to a good life. Yeah, we may get some things that we want, but it doesn't lead to a good life and not an enjoyable life at all. And trust me, you don't want that. So the question for you guys coming out of this passage here is, what do you live by? Do you live by the wisdom of the world, focusing on what you want, what you desire, what you think you need, and being willing to do whatever it takes to get those things for yourself? Or do you live by what the Bible says is right? Do you live by the wisdom of God and doing what God says is the right thing for you to do? So I guess the real question is, you have two options. You're either going to listen to the world or you're going to listen to God. Who are you going to listen to? That's it for today's video, guys. If you liked it, do the like, subscribe, bell thing. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't really do that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you guys have any other wise sayings of the world you'd like to share, put them down in the comments below. I think that'd be awesome just to hear from you guys. And if you have any questions about this passage or about anything I said today, again, put it in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And in the meantime, think about it. Who are you going to follow? Yeah, you got options, but really only two: God or the world. So make a choice. See ya.